The last time we were in the DC universe, Superman was fighting a kaiju, a tech genius, and himself, while the world was being split in half. Now we're following a man who is tortured, traumatized, and just wants his face back. DC's next two releases are Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and Clayface. And if Superman taught us anything, it's that this universe understands something most superhero films forget. Personal stories carry the biggest weight. So let's talk about why. Look at Peacemaker, a man trying to figure out if he's actually a good person underneath all the violence. Creature Commandos, monsters who just want to belong somewhere. The DCU keeps doing this. Huge worlds, huge stakes, but at the center is always something embarrassingly human, and that's exactly why it's working. Funny enough, it's the same ingredient Marvel had but lost somewhere along the way. But that's a different video, link in the description. Right now, let's talk about a man who lost something far more personal, his face. Now, if you're unfamiliar, DC did something interesting here. They blended two versions of the character into one, taking Basil Karlo's origin, an actor, but renaming him Matthew Hagen, who in the comics was a treasure hunter who stumbled upon a pool of protoplasmic clay. Here, he's just a man in Hollywood trying to make it. And that simplicity is exactly what makes it work. Because here's the thing about Matthew. He doesn't choose this. From the teaser, it seems like a gangster disfigures his face. A scientist isn't just a scientist to him. It's someone he loves and transforms his body. He is acted upon at every single step. And that changes everything about how we see him. This isn't a man who reached for power and paid the price. This is a man who had everything taken from him and became something unrecognizable in the process. He lost his career, his face, and moreover, it seems like a betrayal from Caitlin might cut deeper, forcing him to accept his fate at the end and become a monster. And think about what his face meant to him specifically. He's an actor. His face was his career, his identity, his entire sense of self. His world is obsessed with appearance, where how you look determines how you are received, how you are valued, how you are loved. Matthew understood that better than most because his whole life depended on it. Losing it isn't just physical horror. It's the erasure of everything he built himself to be. Who are you when the thing that made you visible to the world is gone? When the world looks at you and sees a monster where a person used to be. Which brings us to the body horror. And this is where Clayface becomes genuinely fascinating as a character. He can wear any face, be any person. And that sounds like a superpower until you sit with it. Infinite faces means no face. He can be everyone, which means he is no one. There is no self underneath anymore. Just clay, just whatever shape the moment requires. And that is not a gift. That is the loneliest existence imaginable. A man who started out desperate to be seen, who now can never truly be seen at all. And the fact that DC isn't shying away from all of it makes the movie even more exciting to see. Like that wrecking ball hand we see in the teaser. In the comics, that always felt cartoonish, almost goofy. Here, it looks like he just killed someone with it. Same visual, completely different feeling, because the horror isn't in the power, it's in what the power represents. A man so broken, so far removed from his humanity, that his grief has literally become a weapon. That's the balance this universe is trying to strike. Grounded enough to feel real, comic book enough to feel like Clayface. Now let's talk about Kara, because Supergirl has always been treated as either a cheerleader or a female Superman, someone who exists to support the symbol rather than be one herself. And that has never sat right, because if you actually look at her story, really look at it, Kara Zor-El has no business being okay. Superman was a baby when Krypton died. He never knew it. Earth is the only home he's ever had. He was born into loss without ever feeling it. But Kara? Kara remembers. She remembers the streets, the people, the culture, the life she had. She had a whole world, and then she watched it burn. And then she was sent here, to a planet that doesn't feel like home because it isn't. And everyone expects her to be fine. Everyone expects her to be Superman. And she is supposed to smile and save people and represent hope while quietly carrying the weight of an entire dead civilization inside her. The funny thing about this idea is that sometimes she doesn't even like saving people at the beginning. She sees humans as sometimes the cause of their problems and gets angry when people don't cherish what they have. And if you're enjoying this so far, a like really does help. But more importantly, are you more excited for Supergirl or Clayface? Let me know in the comments. That is not a superhero story. That is a grief story. And the earlier comics didn't really know what to do with that. She didn't have much of a personality beyond being Clark's cousin, existing in his shadow, defined by her relation to him rather than by who she actually was. But the later comics, specifically Woman of Tomorrow, finally understood what Kara's story was actually about. This character actually has anger issues and has killed people by accident. The isolation and pain she endures once drew the Red Lantern ring to her. This type of rage makes for a very complex character, but we never really see that on screen, well, except in the animations. Woman of Tomorrow follows Kara on a journey across the galaxy with a young girl named Ruthie who is seeking revenge for her father's death. And what makes it so powerful is that Kara is not the polished hero. She is messy and angry and tired. She drinks. She questions whether any of it matters. And through Ruthie's eyes, we see someone who has been through something unsurvivable and is still here anyway, still choosing to be good even when goodness has given her very little in return. That's survival. And the comic captured something visually that matched that emotional weight. This colorful cosmic atmosphere, a universe that felt enormous around one very lonely girl. The trailer doesn't fully have that yet. There's a grittiness to it that doesn't quite match the epic emotional scale of the source material. But what it does have is a Kara who finally feels like she has an interior life. A Kara who is shaped by pain rather than immune to it. And if this film gets even halfway to what that comic achieved, it will still be the best Supergirl adaptation we have ever seen. Because the bar it needs to clear is not very high. But the story it's adapting is one of the best superhero comics written in the last decade. So here's what's fascinating about all of this. We have a film about a man who turns into a shape-shifting clay monster, and it exists in the same universe as a man who flies and punches kaijus. And somehow, that doesn't feel jarring. It feels earned. And the reason it feels earned is because of everything we just talked about. Personal stakes. That's the secret. Not the spectacle, not the scale, not the budget or the visual effects or how many cities get destroyed. What makes you stay in your seat is the person at the center of the story. Because here's the truth about storytelling that Hollywood keeps forgetting and then rediscovering. We do not connect to events. We connect to people. You can blow up a planet, and if we don't care about who's on it, it means nothing. But a man who just wants his face back, a girl who just wants to feel like she belongs somewhere, that hits differently. That stays with you after the credits roll. And that's what personal stakes actually do. They create a container for the bigger emotions. Kara's grief isn't just about her. It becomes a mirror for anyone who has ever felt like they don't belong. Matthew's loss isn't just about his face. It becomes a mirror for anyone who has ever had their identity stripped away from them. And the DCU is proving that you can hold both at the same time. The cosmic and the intimate. The bizarre and the human. And if Clayface looks like that, if that wrecking ball hand in a horror context is what we're getting, then what does Killer Croc look like in this universe? What does Scarecrow look like? The possibilities are genuinely terrifying. And I mean that as the highest compliment. And all of that starts in Gotham, which is why I've been saying for a while now that Gotham isn't just a setting, it's a character. Dark and broken and alive in a way no other comic book city is. Clayface might just be our introduction to it, and I cannot wait. Speaking of which, I'm almost done with a video that goes deep into what makes Batman's world so uniquely compelling. If that sounds like something you want to see, subscribe so you don't miss it when it drops. I'll see you there.